I don't know whether most of you guys know me. I'm David Gordon. I'm co-founder here at Evan Healy. I used to be the CEO. I still am, but I think a better title would be steward. This is a steward circle, and I'll just tell you a little bit about what we mean by steward circle and stewards, and then I've got some questions for Jud. I don't see him on my screen. Where are you hiding, Jud?
Oh, I'm here.
Jud Anne, hi.
I'm here. I'm
Great,
here.
wonderful. Okay. So, so first of all, I've known Jud and Ann for 15 years. We've worked together. In many ways, the relationship with them has been foundational to shaping the Steward Circle. Um, there was no plan. I think that we were always attracted to people who were on the land, connected to the land. Um, I think that captured a value of this is someone who is doing the work of taking care of soil, and ultimately taking care of the soil is taking care of us. And so the concept of stewards for the brand at Evan Healy has grown and continued to expand from stewards we have from various parts of the world. From our olive grove to our argan grower to our, rosehip, to Oshala Farm, who's, our supplier for herbs these days, and so on and so forth. Um, the concept that we initially um, embraced and was affected by was that the stewards were those on the land. And I think that in many ways, those stewards still have a sweet spot for me personally, and I think for all of us. The courage it takes, the conviction to be on the land, and also the depth of soul one must have to be so committed to the land that they'll do whatever it takes to make a living from being on the land. And so I think in many ways, land stewards still have that special spot for all of us. I think over the course of these many years, we've realized that we all take care. The stewards take care of the land. They take care of us. They take care of plants. The process, how Judd and Ann handle plant material, the care they bring to it. And I don't know how many times I've been there, and it's no exaggeration to say it really is one of the joys of my life to be able to go and spend, even a weekend with them and to be the host to bringing dozens of others to their farm because that experience is transformational. I know years ago, we wrote that as plant material being harvested and being distilled turns from plant material into ether and then it condenses into water is an alchemical process. I always felt that the alchemy of that experience was happening for us as participants. And this is the heart and soul of the Steward Circle. Transformation of ourselves as individuals, as a community, transformation in terms of the stewards on the land, turning plant material into herbal medicine. And ultimately, though, our role as both retailers, other brands, as customers and users, that we're part of this circle. We're part of taking care of nurturing this, advocating for it, paying attention. So this is the platform of the Steward Circle, and this is our inaugural session interview. Um, there's nobody better than Judd and Ann to start it off with us, and we have others planned. We'll be doing this once a month, and we'll be announcing it, weeks ahead each time what steward we're going to feature. And some of these will be stewards of the land, and some of these will be stewards, in retail environments. I know that our next steward is Emily Cantor from Cambridge Naturals, who's a second generation steward of her family natural food store. So there's lots to come. Um, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. I'm supported here by a number of wonderful folks at Evan Healy who will field some of those questions. I'd like to start, again by welcoming Jud and Anne. I've mentioned that we've worked together all these years. About a year and a half ago is my guess. Jud Anne and I started to talk about regenerative farming and regenerative practices and what that might look like and what the benefits might be. And I start by asking you guys, now that you've been engaged in it, what are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What are you seeing on the land?
Uh, I think, I've heard people describe regenerative farming as messy, which is kind of funny because a lot of farming is very, when you look at fields or row cropping, it's very tidy and it feels a little messy. It feels a little wild. It feels a little uncontrolled to an extent. But there's this old Chinese proverb, and anybody can roll their eyes at me if they want to. I think it's Chinese. I haven't, figured it all out, but it says clean water has no fish, as in, you know, you can't have a goldfish in distilled water. There has to be other things living in all of that. And if I've learned any one thing with what we've done this year, and more on that later, but watching what we've done with not inter-row planting, but between the beds of propagation or harvest and all the things that we're growing, we're doing this other thing. We're growing soil, we're growing other types of plants to build soil and life. And the amount of butterflies and bees, and we had wildlife show up this year that we've never seen wandering around the farm, fly in, blue heron wandering around out in the thing. So when I look at all of that, aside from many other parts of it, it's just been very cool to see life be more abundant, even when we've done organic things and we don't spray and we try to build soil. It's just the level of life that we've seen increase has been astonishing and super fun, even if it is a little messy.
Cool, wonderful. Um, how has it impacted your overall journey? Do you still see the world the way you did a year and a half ago? If not, what's changed?
Um, I think it's changed a lot. I mean, I would have to say I appreciate the nudge by y'all in that conversation. I was reluctant initially to want to make the change. We had organic and we'd done soil building and we did a lot of natural things, but I think we were struggling with a level of soil improvement because we have a sandy site and it's hard, it's very hard. I mean, and I mean sand, I mean it is beach sand. We may have water and interesting conditions here, but the beach sand is difficult to grow in. And we've tried to build our soil, but it's not been at a rate or anything that we've wanted. And so I would say it's changed my perception on some things because I feel like it's doable, that we can actually see an improvement in soil health, that we can overcome some of the difficulties of this extremely sandy site. And we live in a very difficult place to grow things. I mean, we can have 110 degrees in the summer at 10% humidity. That's tough to grow things. And we get 20 below. So, how do we create soil and an environment that plants, when they are here and can grow, that they'll thrive? And looking at what we're doing with regenerative, what I've learned from regenerative farming practices, I feel like um, while I was initially suspect because it was the next new hot thing, and I've seen lots of that over my 35 years of farming, um, I feel like it's doable and I feel like it's measurable. I feel like and that it will be successful from what I've read and what I've learned and listened to in other people's stories and their conditions and the soil and the crops that they're doing. This isn't a fad. This is real. Um, this is really going to be a future for rejuvenating soil, rejuvenating health, changing farming practices and making it measurable, tangible. And so I'm excited about that. And I think it's changed my perspective of what I think is possible and what is possible for our food network, for the other farmers that maybe don't know or haven't known or haven't been trained. And so I'm excited about the future for that.
Um, you talked about making it concrete. I don't know what word you just used, but making it real. Um, do you have any sense or ability to articulate what does that mean? How is it going to be made real, made tangible?
The regenerative farming on a like large scale. Um,
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
yeah. Well, I think, we've been involved in organic growing for a very long time before we were even certified. I wasn't even fully aware of all what it was. We got into it as we were doing some garlic farming way back in the day. And um, I've watched the organic change a bit to where, there are certain things that are considered organic now that I don't really agree with. And that's just my personal perspective. Obviously, there's a lot of people talking about it, but I don't think, having seen from my perspective, I was organic and I was watching my soil slowly grow, and I was aggressively trying to grow our soil. I was aggressively trying to do things that would be beneficial because I have water and I can grow multiple crops in a year of cover crops. But I don't see that happening on large scale farms. I don't see that in 1,000-acre orchards. I don't see that on wheat fields. That there's maybe some different ways to do things. And I think when I look at it being concrete, looking at soil health, bacteria, fungi, the amount of carbon that's being um, uh, stored, if you will, in the soil, as in root matter and stuff for stabilization, moisture stabilization, and then the release and or the binding of nutrients for plants to be more healthy. Those are measurable, tangible things that's not just, well, we're not using sprays and we're using organic field amendments or something like that. This is actually measurable, and we can actually look at soil health, plant resiliency, plant nutrition at a way that, isn't just an organic label. Okay, we're not doing damage anymore, but are we really benefiting things? And this is like, we can actually benefit society, land, the next generation by measuring these things in a tangible way. And that's why I think it's real.
You use the word next generation. What's happening with your next generation?
What's happening with them? What do you think, honey? Do you want to say on anything on that?
So Gideon is 22 and he's definitely like wanting to take things on and not replace Judd, but but help shoulder the
The weight.
get in the harness and help pull. As to whether our younger kids are interested, I guess time will have to tell about that. But we have some younger-ish employees that are really seem like they're here for the long haul. And so we're trying to figure out ways to incentivize them, reward them, give them more ownership, encourage them to take on more responsibility, training in different areas. So that's been really good. Two of our older kids are not involved in the business, and we had hoped that they would be. But
There's still time.
There's still time. There's still
They
time.
might change their mind.
But we had to kind of broaden our horizons and go, okay, the next generation doesn't just mean our kids.
Yeah.
It can also mean other young people in the area that are needing a good job in the area. So we're happy to have some really, really wonderful young people working for us that seem like they're probably going to be here for a while. Well, hopefully.
Having known Gideon for a long time, since I don't know what age, whether it was 10 or 12, and seeing him work alongside you these last few years, when visiting, he's clearly, to me, he's a man. He's highly competent. You've talked about the ability, the relief, just be able to say, go and do this, and he'll do it. Um, And what's it like to have, Gideon so involved for you?
Awesome. I love it. He's out running an excavator right now. He's running crew. He does most of our website work. Um,
He does some engineering. He loves electrical, DC, some AC he messes with. What else does he do? Planting. He's helping organize our. We've sat down together and just like, how do we get what's in my head of 30 years of experience, and how do I make that accessible to him rather than asking me random questions when he needs information. So he's trying to like mine my years of experience and create, we're calling it the playbook. Um, how do we do this? What do we do so that he can learn more specifically? So we've been aggregating that for the last year and a half or two. So he's very diverse. He loves diversity. He was looking originally at being an engineer, and I'm like, I don't know, that's a cubicle for a long time there. You grew up on a farm with something new every day to tackle, solve, fix, get involved with, and I think he's finally realized he likes that. I mean, it's hard work, and it's sometimes inconvenient when you have to like shift because that's just the day on the farm. But the diversity, I think he really, really just thrives in. We're doing this, and we're going to do that. We're going to fix a still. And we're going to do some electrical, and that needs out in the field. And I'm going to run a crew of 5 people over here. He just thrives in that. It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's many times I can remember one time, calling you and, what are you doing? You're just telling me you're standing on a hill or something. You're looking at the water pipe is broken and how it's going to connect to the river. Whatever the detail is, I'm just listening to you for a few minutes thinking, well, I don't know anything about what he's talking about. Just know that I trust Jud and Jud's going to fix it and we're going to keep getting our hydrosols. And I
Yeah.
do think that what it takes to manage a farm and the diversity of skills and the flexibility and the resilience it takes is special. And it's very complementary to what we might do as a brand or what our retailers might do in the store. So it's a great little circle. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, talking about a different aspect of family, so to speak, you've brought in and nurtured a number of farms in your community over all these many years. What is the impact on the farms going to be as you move to regenerative?
um, well, I think I'm excited for them, and I think the impact, if anything, it's going to be a little difficult for them. Um, I think trying to use some of the new practices are a little difficult, and they may not have the equipment for some of that, or it might be slower for them because maybe they don't have, say, the water system that we do or whatnot. But we're really committed to how do we how do we share what we've learned? A, because we also know that it's going to really be helping people. B, we were given a great opportunity, and the reason we're here is because of brands like Evan Healy and a group of other brands that we work with, our mentor and Harmon, and a host of other people. And so we didn't just show up here and magically have everything we had. It was because other people supported us. We were involved in each other's lives. And so I look at where some of our other farms are, and while it might be difficult for them, we have the opportunity to help them. And I think it's going to also improve their soil and give them an opportunity to not only learn, but improve their ground and their productivity in a way that will fiscally benefit them in the long run. It's just getting out of old lanes and things like that. That's not always easy to do. Um, and if you don't have equipment or maybe resources, or maybe you're not growing that much, that can make it a little bit hard. But I know it's going to in the long run. Just knowing what it does for the soil and what it will do for them, it just might take them a little bit more effort, a little bit longer, depending upon their soil condition. What are they growing? How many people do they have? What's going on? And each one of the farms, and I think you're familiar with those, is very different with their location, what they're growing, water constraints, soil types, the amount of family or what they're going to be growing in quantity. but I think they're all excited, a little scared because it's still very new. It's regenerative farming to a degree, while the science is solid, is still kind of the wild west a little bit.
No one's more suited to the Wild West than you. So listen, some of my colleagues are here, and I'm just wondering whether they have any questions for you or any comments.
Sure.
Hey, I could ask a question. It's nice to see you guys after a few years.
Rob,
How are you?
good.
Um, hey, you mentioned that your soil is really sandy, and I mean, is there? I'm just curious about regenerative ag. Like, are you able to change the quality of that, or that's not what happens with regenerative ag? It just because it's sandy, it's just always going to be sandy. But um, I guess you just kind of sparked my interest in sort of talking about that. I also have sandy soil where I'm at, and but uh, does composting and this sort of thing actually change the quality? It could be a question for Andy. I'm not sure, but what do you think? What do you expect with it?
Well, my goal, I'm not going to change 20 feet of sand. I can't do that. But what I would like to do is stabilize the top 16 inches is what I want to really do. And um, without tillage, the roots stay in place. With repeated growth of things, you're going to create other soil exudates from those plants that are being pushed out. So you're going to change a lot of the available micronutrients, bacteria. You're going to encourage more bacteria. You're going to be encouraging um, fungi that don't live there with any tillage, and you're going to increase the population of all those things. And from what I understand, and again, I'm not a soil scientist guy, so I'm just telling you what I've surmised, is that not only are those relationships, the fungi and all the dead and living things kind of create like a stickiness, a soil web that holds everything together, which gives you better water retention. And while you maybe aren't going to get rid of the sand, you're going to increase carbon, you're going to increase all of that stickiness and interrelatedness to it, which will hold on to water better. Your nutrients will be more readily available. And as those things increase in population and variety, um, it's going to be able to pull nutrients, I guess you'd say minerals, from the soil, and not the soil, from the sand, and make that more readily available to the plants. And so tillage or compost are one thing, but creating an insulation layer, if you will, on top, and an undisturbed root zone as much as you can, and then timed disturbances, are going to increase the resiliency, the water retention, and also available nutrients over time. You can't get rid of the sand, but you can at least stabilize it, and I guess you'd say infuse it with some energy and momentum. And again, if I can just stabilize the top foot to 16 inches, I'm going to be so happy. And again, there's no way to stabilize 20 feet of soil without like growing pine trees. Well, and then you're just a tree farmer at that point.
Yeah, awesome. That's exciting.
And Andy had a comment, and someone sort of needs to mute themselves. Someone's speaking and not muted. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Jud, about what do you wish the rest of the non-farm, the few of us these days farm, although we can be stewards, but what core message would you, or what kind of information would you want more widely known across the population? What is it that you've learned in your work as a farmer and as a regenerative farmer? What, if you could distill it down into one or two key pieces of information, what would be the thing you would like on the billboard in Times Square that tells the world about what you're doing, in Washington?
Well, Steve Greeno, you met Steve Greeno, right? And he had a bumper sticker. He was an old organic guy back when organic started. And if you wanted to say any one thing, if you wanted to distill it down into one sentence, he had a little bumper sticker that says, "Do you know your farmer?" kind of thing on the bumper sticker. And I would say, know where your food comes from. Know your local farmers. Know the quality of your food if you can, or the quality of the things that you're sourcing. And I thought it was just really smart because I think keeping it local, keeping it fresh, keeping it produced there, um, is going to encourage small farms. It's going to encourage families. It's going to encourage health. It's going to encourage a vibrant community and getting to know one another. And we've become, I would say, as a global collective, if you will, while we have access to everything, we're also distant from one another. And when you have to like work with your neighbor, like you kind of got to grow up in some areas. You got to be willing to give and change and maybe be more tolerant and maybe a little more vocal and figure out how to work things out. And I think doing things more local or knowing where things come from and being willing to support that, as local or as known as possible as you can, like knowing what are they actually doing, I think is the most important thing. We just want ease and comfort, and it's like, well, maybe we need to know each other a little bit better than just at some surface level. That's what I'd say. That's my 2 cents. What do you have? You have anything here, honey?
Put me on the spot.
Of course, I'm going to put you on the spot. I
Okay.
saw you tried to say something.
No, okay, now I don't remember, but
Oh,
yeah, I would agree with you. I was thinking the same thing basically in a different way. But yeah, know your farmer, and I think that there's so much more awareness of that nowadays, and we do have so many good farmers markets and different things you can go to. So there's a lot more opportunity, I think, for that than there was maybe even just 20 years ago.
yeah.
Jamie?
I was going to say that I think that, I mean, collectively, anybody that's had a conversation with Jud, I was talking to Cindy Deverell about it this morning, like your recall of like nerdy science facts and how plants and what like plants are made of and how they work it's astounding, really. And I know that Anne thinks it's really great, like for sleepy time, but it's so fascinating. And I feel like that level of recall really has to come from like a true passion for what you're doing to be able to like know it, retain it, like be able to recall it and to be able to utilize it and put it into use. Was there a certain point in your journey where you like something sparked in you and like, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? Like, so this is so important what I'm doing. Like, do you know, like, was there a turning point where you just decided that you were all in?
I grew up on a farm that had every fruit, nut, berry, and I mean that literally, like every fruit, nut, berry that you can grow in the northern hemisphere. Right, and that was just normal to me. And then I moved off and did other things for a while and realized kind of how special that was. But it wasn't until we really met. And so, I always had the bug for growing things. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I liked the diversity of the plants. But I think it was when we got into growing some garlic, which was a new thing for us. It was like, oh, that's interesting. And then our teacher, we had found out, our initial distilling teacher, Ann Harmon, was looking for growing, can you guys grow things? And we're like, yeah, I can grow stuff. I've grown lots of stuff. And we got introduced into aromatic medicinal plants. And I was so shocked that I had no understanding of this world. I'm like, wait a second. I mean, I grew up on a farm with 500 varieties of apples, literally 500 varieties of apples. And all the nuance of flavor and the timing of that, and 20 varieties of cherry. I mean, the list just goes on. It's crazy. And yet somehow I was not exposed to all of this variety in the aromatic plant world, and the healing properties and the fragrance and the perfume and the medicinal value. And it goes on and on. And it was like, I have got to know more about this. This is so cool. And why was I kept in the dark for so long? And other people should know about this. So anyway,
I guess that was it.
that was the moment of just like, wait a second, I had no idea this world even existed. So it was cool.
Thanks.
I think that the theme that comes out of that conversation with Jud and Anne is community, family, the land, paying attention, being engaged. And I noticed that at the same time as you're very human and very connected to your family and your community, you do extend out and are fully engaged with soil health and the impact of regenerative journey and what that means and how that can improve your food, know your farmer, which is, know where your food comes from, know where your medicinal herbs come from, know where your medicinal skincare comes from. So I think it's a sort of wonderful way to wrap it up. I think that I want to keep things to sort of a contained time so that we're hungry to come back for more. In 4 weeks today, I think that's Monday, November 3rd. At this time, I'm going to talk to Emily Cantor, as I mentioned, from Cambridge Naturals and second generation owner of a natural food store. So thank you, everybody. Jud and Ann, it's a delight to see you, and all our years together. There's so much fondness, love and appreciation for you guys. In my mind, you're the original stewards for us, and thank you for leading off this inaugural conversation.
You're most welcome. It's
Thank
our
you,
pleasure.
David.
Great. Welcome to everybody. So nice to see you all.
Thank you, Jud and Anne. Bye-bye.